Hello, and thank you for subscribing to SmartView Convenience. This is a short video to help you get the most from the platform and navigate your way around the various pages. For this particular video, I'm going to demonstrate soft drinks data, but the functionality is entirely the same regardless of which category you're viewing.
Before we begin, let's cover some basics. SmartView Convenience is reporting EPOS sales out of GB Convenience retail outlets. 2. These outlets are what TWC describes as wholesaler supplied, so stores like Best One, Premier, Go Local, or truly independent retailers with no fascia. The key exclusions from this read are Co-op, Spar UK, and many multiple convenience operators such as Tesco Express or Sainsbury's Local. It also excludes any sales from the island of Ireland, North and South. 3. Data is refreshed on a 4-weekly basis. Because SmartView Convenience is dealing with data from some of the hardest to reach parts of our channel, we're processing data that does not contain barcodes, we're doing our very best with cleansing, but this is a process that works well where our supplier subscribers help us by supplying product detail for their range to help us with the coding process. 4. The sample comprises approximately 6,500 stores. The important thing is that we are maintaining a static store sample so that distribution counts are reliably and consistently reported based on the same base sample. And 5. The core sample we're using is weighted geographically and by fascia and also upweighted to total GB sales. We have used data from the grocer and the Association of Convenience Stores as the basis for our weightings. Okay, let's look at the platform. SmartView Convenience is reported on TWC's existing SmartView platform. You may have used it previously for wholesale shipments reporting from one of our buying groups or CJ Lang, Spar Scotland. If you are an existing TWC user, the functionality is very similar and getting up and running should be very straightforward. Log in via a web browser. We recommend Google Chrome for a positive browsing experience. You'll have already received an email with a link to the site, your username and password. You then have 2 options. NamDash is where all the predefined canned reports exist. It's a series of ranked sales reports based on your selection of a time frame and sales measure, such as volume, value, or store count. Query Builder is a free-form query tool which you can use to run queries to get custom data layouts out of the database. It's particularly useful if you want to have a look at a lot of data in one report or if you want multiple measures or timeframes in the same report. Let's start with NamDash. As most of the pages in the NamDash section have a similar layout and functionality, let's walk through some of the consistent options you have on each page first. In the navy panel on the top left of the page, it will tell you what date point sales are being reported to. On the right hand side, if you click the icon that looks like a person's head and shoulders, you can send in support requests or ask for colleagues to be set up on the system. You can see in the middle of the screen you have a data table on the left hand side and a donut chart or roundel on the right. The data table is ranked high to low based on the year's sales, and each line is showing sales this year, sales last year, and associated share by dividing the year's sales by the total at the bottom of the page. The share point is depicted on the donut chart on the right. You have a drop-down box to change your reporting measure. The default will be value, but you can also choose quantity, which is retail units, or customer count, which is basically a distinct count of store stockists or distribution points. You also have a drop-down box to change your measure. The default is 4 weeks, but you can choose 4 weeks, 13 weeks, calendar year to date, or MAT versus prior year. Or we also have rolling periods, so you can view 4, 13 or 52 weeks versus the immediately preceding period. For example, rolling 4 weeks would be an 8-week total reporting window that compares the last 4 weeks to the immediately preceding 4-week period. There's an option to export any page either into a pre-formatted PDF or into Excel. With Excel, you select the CSV option but have 2 choices. If you choose CSV All, this will export everything that is categorized in Other at the bottom of the data table and break it down into the detail. So, for example, if you're on the supplier performance page and it's grouped smaller suppliers into Other on the table, .csv will export all suppliers by name, including those grouped in the Other on the dashboard. If you choose CSV, it will simply export the data as shown in the data table. You can use the filters at the top of the page to change the view the data table is showing you. For example, we're currently viewing total soft drinks, but we might want to focus into just the drink now. The category filters will help with this. Once you've made your selection, always hit the refresh button to execute your request. You can also change the view by selecting a particular fascia or region on this page. Now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about what the data is telling you. The way that TWC SmartView dashboards are laid out in NamDash is that we start with the total departmental or category view on the left-hand side with a page called Category Performance. Then as you work along the yellow navigational pane, you can view supplier performance, brand performance, and product performance. Each of these will show ranked sales according to the page you're on, so ranked categories, ranked suppliers, ranked brands, or ranked SKUs. You then have the option to cut the data by region on the regional performance page or by fascia on the fascia performance page, and you can also run sales by week on the last tab in NamDash, which is SKU Tracker. Moving on to supplier performance. As I mentioned, this is ranked on supplier sales this year from highest to lowest. Again, I can change my view by adjusting between value, quantity, and customer count, by time frame, or by focusing into a category or a subcategory. I can also focus by brand, region, or fascia. And I can choose to export my selection out by PDF, CSV, or CSV all. Looking at brand performance, the functionality is the same. There is the option to use an additional filter on this page, which would be supplier. If I wanted, for example, to filter my list to show me just Molson Coors brands, I can use the supplier drop-down box to filter my selection. You may have noticed that on each page we have the option to drill. This button is so that you can focus on a particular number that has perhaps jumped out at you and follow the story of what it is driving. For example, on the Molson Coors brands, we might want to look underneath Madri and see what is driving that number. After clicking drill, you can look by SKU to see which product is driving the growth. In this case, we can see that it's the 4-pack that is driving brand performance. Once you've finished investigating, you can use the back button to return to the page you started on. Product performance offers you the same viewing experience. On this page, in addition to the other filters, you might want to use the supplier or brand drop-down so that you can return all products for the supplier or brand. For example, if I select the brand Red Bull, it excludes all other SKUs and just returns Red Bull products. Region performance cuts the sales data by geographic region, so you can view regional performance by category or subcategory or supplier or brand. Fascia performance cuts sales by retail fascia. Some are grouped to stop fragmentation, so for example, a number of the Unitas fascias have been clustered, although Go Local is being reported separately. And finally, SKU Tracker. You can run up to 3 SKUs from this page and it will return sales by week for 52 weeks. If you want to run more than 3 SKUs, it's easier to use the query builder. To search for a product, just work your way through the category filters until the product box appears, then type in your product. In this example, I'll search for Red Bull Energy 4-pack. Once you're done, hit the refresh button and the results will be returned. Now on to Query Builder. Query Builder is simple to use, but when you first start getting to know how it works, it does help if you have some specific queries you want to run before you start. First, choose your number format or measure. Do you want volume or value, or maybe both? We do not currently have store count in this part of the dashboard, but it will be added in a future release. Second, pick your timeframes. You have the option to pick a custom time frame or one of the preset dates via the lozenges on the left-hand side of the date selector. Note that if you choose one of the previous options, this is for rolling time frames. If, for example, you'd like to see latest 4 weeks versus immediately preceding 4 weeks, choose 4 weeks this year, then select a second time frame and choose previous 4 weeks, which will give you rolling. The reason we have the same option for 52 weeks is that our MAT is based on ISO weeks and can therefore have 53 weeks in it. If you want an absolute comparison of 52 weeks versus the prior 52 weeks, use the previous lozenge instead. If you wish to select a custom time frame, click on Custom and then choose your start and end date in the boxes. Please note that we only report in whole week segments, so the start date will always be a Monday and the end date will always be a Sunday. You cannot start or end a report on any other day. You then have the option of how the time frame you've selected is broken down. If you use the slider to choose Show Weeks in Results, this will return your data by week for whatever time frame you've chosen. If you do not move the slide, you will get a single figure for the time frame chosen. You then click Next. The following page allows you to determine how you want the data broken down. So for example, if I want to see all products in premium lager against the time frame and measures I selected on page 1, I would select Product Description by clicking the box and making sure the whole box is highlighted. I then need to limit the results set to just premium lager, so I click on the filter button on the left of the department button and click Beers, Lagers and Cider. It drops into the bottom of the filter box, then hit Add Filter button at the bottom of the panel. Then click on the filter to the left of the category box and filter on Beer, Lager, and then choose Lager on the subcategory filter, and finally Premium in the Level 4 box. I know the filter has been picked up because it changes colour. I can then choose to add extra fields into my data to help with sorting the data once it comes out. For example, if I have selected all premium lagers, I might want to run brand and supplier name into the data to help when I'm analysing it. By clicking the buttons for brand and supplier, these fields will be included in the returned results. Once you're happy with the selections you've made, you can then click Next, and when the query is returned, it will be in a flat CSV format for you to save locally and work on. However, you do also have the option to change the layout of your results set and return the data in a pivot table style format. So, for example, if you've returned 52 weeks sales by week for volume and value, a flat file will put each week into each row of data, whereas the pivot option allows you to specify that you would like weeks returned left to right in columns. Equally, it would allow you to have volume and value as subheadings within each week in your preferred order. Finally, it means you can layer your data, so perhaps department, brand and SKU on the left in rows or along the top in columns. Simply click and drag the lozenges into the rows and column fields, just as you would if you were building a pivot table in Excel to design your report layout. Once you finalize your layout as a pivot, you can click Next. This is the last page before you execute your query. Always make sure at this point that you have something in the chosen filter box on the right hand side. This just means that you have put a limit on your results set and you won't be querying the whole database. You also have the option to give your query a name, which means you can identify it easily in the future if for some reason you need to revisit it. Now hit the Run Query button and this will dispatch your query off to the server to run. You'll get two messages. The first will tell you that the query is being loaded, and the second message will say it is queued at server. Most queries run in 2 minutes or less, although some big queries can take longer due to the volume of data. You always have the option to leave queries to run and come back later to use them. Go to Query History and all your queries will be listed there. You have the option to download a previously completed query, rerun a query, or even schedule queries to run every week or every month automatically. You can also do this in the Query Scheduler page. If you have any questions or need any additional support, please contact us at support@twcgroup.net. Please remember this data is commercially sensitive, so we like to track its usage. You are allowed to have unlimited licenses within the terms of your subscription, so please make sure that any of your users are accessing the data on their own credentials, and please remember to tell us if anyone with access leaves your business and should be deleted from the platform, so their access is revoked. We encourage you to quote this data in internal and external meetings and in trade marketing activity because we believe it is a robust authority on sector performance. However, if you do use the data, please ensure that you have got your facts correct and the numbers you are quoting can be verified, and please source any material as Source ITG International Services Limited in partnership with TWC. Thank you.